All right. Good luck, Laura.
Thanks.
All right, here we go.
Do well.
Am I kicking off or is someone else kicking off?
I will.
Okay, just
Yeah. A lot of planning going into this.
Well, I thought that's what we were doing, but I thought I'd just confirm.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome.
Good. Hello.
Right.
This is a treat. It's not even Thursday, and I get to see all your beautiful faces.
I thought you were going to say it's a treat because twice in one day.
Harvey back to back. Gewalt. I'm going to absolutely need to meditate after this one. We'll give it 30 more seconds. You think by now, after 16, 17 months, everybody would show up on time?
Nah.
Nah.
Glad you got the link, Dan.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Sorry, it's been a crazy morning.
Hello, Andrea.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good.
That was creepy.
Andrea was married to one of my dearest oldest friend's sons. Was, I said. What a small world, huh?
Hence the Zen.
Fantastic. All right, you know what we're going to do? Let's get this kicked off. We're on a schedule. Going to keep it really short and brief because I don't want to take any time away from our host and facilitator today. So welcome and thank you. This is the kickoff to V50 Health and Wellness. It is one of a 5-part mini-series, Intro to Mindfulness, Life and Business Performance Tool. So we're really excited to get this going. We've been talking about it a long time. Hopefully this will be the basis of lots to come. So we'll set the tone today. And with that note, we all know each other in this room. No need for introductions. I'm going to hand it over to our host today and facilitator, Miss Laura Juarez. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lane. It's good to see all of you. I'm really excited to be here. Appreciate your time, certainly. And so I thought it would be interesting before we dive in, and we're going to actually get right into the thick of things with a practice. But before we do that, if we could all get into the chat and just put on a scale of 1 to 10, how proficient do you feel with meditation? 0's fine. So if you want to go sub below, all good. And if there's any 1 word, 2 words that you think of when you hear of meditation, throw that in there. I'm just curious to see kind of where we are. Yeah, 0's. I love it. Perfect. So lots of 1s, 1.5s. There's a 7 with Jake. 3 centering. Awesome. Awesome. Chill. Yoga daily. Very good. Good. Okay. Great. Well, my commitment to you, because meditation is really a practice. It's a tool or a technology that we can learn to use to amplify our lives, is that you'll get plenty of practice. And I also want it to be educational for you and hopefully to kind of get your wheels turning on some topics around why it matters. So each week when we're together, we're going to kind of take a facet of meditation and dig deeper into it. And today we're just going to level set. So the goal for today is to talk a little bit about stress, the body's capability with stress, and then how we might use meditation specifically to begin to recognize that in our system, because we all know that all of the things around productivity, creativity, they're all interesting, but that when we're performing with some heightened level of sustained stress in our system, even if we think we're pretty good at it, we're never optimized. So we'll do some of that work first. So before we dig in, I want to share a little bit of my bias with you, and I'm not going to like give you my whole bio because that's, less than interesting. But I ran a B2B manufacturing company for over 20 years in the building materials space. And I worked in corporate consulting prior to that. So I've lived in corporate pretty much my whole career. And right after my second child was born, way back when in 2004, I was like on this spiral downward from a medical standpoint. And I looked great on paper. Like I ate well, I exercised, I did all the things. And my body was just slowly shutting down. My hair was falling out. I would speak and like garbled messes of nonsense would come out of my mouth. It sounded like I'd had cocktails at 8 a.m. I'd drive places and not know how I got there. And I was working with a physician at the time who had been tracking, which is the beautiful thing about data, right? So we can track over time what was happening with my blood work. And that physician finally said to me, Laura, you either are going to make like deep changes in your life, or I'll meet you in a hospital within 6 weeks. Like your body is failing. And at this point, I'm running this company and I have 2 babies, basically. And my strategy for working with all of that had been to do what I'd always done well, which always worked for me, which is push harder, run faster, pretend it's not there and it'll all be okay. And my body just said, well, that's fascinating and it's not going to work long term. So the physician suggested that I play with meditation as a tool, to which I almost laughed him out of the room. And then I inserted power yoga, which felt like a much easier way for me to enter the space of mindfulness. But that was a long time ago, right? My youngest child, my daughter, is now almost 17 years old, and my oldest is almost 19, which is crazy. And I've been with these tools, which is what they are to me. They're practices or technologies that we can use in our lifetime. I've been with them for a long time now, and I've really done a lot of deep study with them. And in fact, I felt so strongly about it that I've done a lot of deep training. I've opened a couple of yoga and meditation studios along the way, just as kind of like a side gig, because I really appreciate what it brings to all of our lives. And what I've discovered is that once we get past meditation as kind of a blunt object to address stress, we start to discover that it's actually a tool where we can refine performance, where we can refine our access to our joy, where we can refine our access to our creativity. And so my hope as we go through this time is to give you enough of the kind of science of meditation and kind of understanding of your own experience that you can start to play with it in that way so that you can practice with it over time. So that's where we're headed. So I just wanted to give you that context. And at any point, by the way, totally interactive. So just jump on, and if you have a question, feel free to ask. I'm happy to field those as we go. Were you going to say something, Alan? I thought I saw you like ready.
I said awesome.
Okay, sweet.
Excited.
Awesome. Good. What I'd like to do to begin with is just to give you some practice. And we're coming together. I'm Eastern time zone. I think most of us are Eastern time zone with the exception of a few of you, but it's somewhere midday for all of us. We've had some amount of day that's happened up to this point, and it's a Monday. So many of us have had some amount of work day that's happened up to this point. And so the practice is an opportunity to just even get present to where we are right now. So what I'm going to do is, and we'll do this every time we're together, and I'll probably use some different tools so you can play around with different meditation styles. But today I'm just going to ask you if you have like a recording device, right? Like phone, pen, pencil, crayon, all good, whatever you've got. I'm going to ask you just 3 questions, scale of 1 to 10. And I'm going to ask you before and after we do some centering work. And centering, to one of you who commented on this in the chat, it's really just another way of talking about meditation. So the 3 questions I have for you, and the reason I like to do this is I like data. I'm like I really like to demonstrate that something has happened. And so we'll do this so you can track with it. So the first question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, right now in this moment, how capable are you of staying focused on the single thing that is in front of you, which is this time that we're together? So scale of 1 to 10, how capable do you feel to stay focused on what it is you've committed to for this 45 minutes? And then the next question, scale of 1 to 10, 10 being totally stress-free and calm. Where are you right now on the stress continuum? Like, what is that sense of stress? And then the last one is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how connected do you feel emotionally, energetically, mentally to what is most important to you in your life right now? Okay, cool. So let's ground. So if you're comfortable, meditation's oftentimes done eyes closed. You don't have to do it eyes closed. Some people prefer half-cast gaze, which is called a steady drishti for those of you who are yogis in the room. And all I'm going to do invite you to do is uncross whatever you have crossed, arms, legs, just let everything hang free, and then plant your feet on whatever surface is below you. And then just take a minute and start to lift up through the spine. Close your eyes if you're going to, and then send your shoulders up to your ears. And then on your exhale, roll your shoulder blades back and down the spine. Now with a little bit of lift up through the base of the abdominals, not too much effort, just enough to have this dignified tall seat. Think about pulling the crown of the head a little higher. It's drawing into the full capacity of your space physically. And then just notice your breath. Notice your breath as it is. Nothing really to do there with it. You might be aware of tightness in the breath. Just be a good witness. Intentionally start to slow the breath. Staying within the realm of what is comfortable. Then I'll invite you, invitation only, that's optional. But if you'd like to add an additional anchor, bring the tips of your thumbs to touch the tips of your index fingers. This is called Gaian Mudra. And the next breath, soften your jaw. Soften through the crown of the head. Soften your heart space. Notice where in your body there's opportunity to relax. And draw the breath into that space, inviting the muscles to settle and soften. And we're going to begin with a specific breath that's often taught as a way to decrease stress, to just turn the valve. And so it's a 4-4-5 breath. We'll breathe in for 4, hold for 4, exhale through 5. All through the nose, except occasionally if you want to exhale through the mouth, all good. And so the invitation here is to give the mind something to hook to, which is the internal counting of the breath. So find the pace that feels comfortable in 4, hold 4, out 5. And begin that as you're ready. Be a witness to the working of the mind. If it begins to run or fixate, it's all good. Just turn your mental attention back to the counting of the breath and the sensation of the breath moving in, holding in expansion at the top, and releasing out. As you breathe in, you get to the very top of that breath and that spaciousness. See if you can soften in that space, allowing everything to slow, everything to clear. And take advantage of the exhale that's longer than the inhale as a way to clear out more than what you're bringing in, leaving behind spaciousness. Notice any mental or physical resistance without judgment. And just allow it to exist and for you to coexist with it. Let's practice a teacher to stay steady internally, inner landscape clean in the midst of a fluctuating external landscape, in the midst of a busy mind. And take one more cycle of breath using the 4, 4, 5 count. And your eyes still closed if it's comfortable. Just let your left ear drop to the left shoulder. And then roll chin down through your chest. Lift up to the right. And then come back to center. Take a full deep breath all the way in. Slow, easy, open mouth sigh out. And then without too much movement, I'm going to ask you those 3 questions again, scale of 1 to 10, and you mark where you are. The first one is 1 to 10 right now. How capable do you feel to stay focused on the single thing to which you're dedicated? The next one, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you on the stress scale, 10 being totally stress-free and calm? And the last one, 1 to 10, how connected do you feel to what is most important to you in your life? If you haven't opened your eyes, you can. So before I go forward, I just want to do a quick check-in and see if anyone had anything that feels important to share. Yeah, Ellen.
Yeah, I don't know about anyone else, but when I got into a good groove with the breathing, I kept getting like the chills.
Mhm.
I can't describe it. It just felt good. Felt
Mhm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Amazing.
I had a little hard time with feeling my heart rate just racing too much
Yes.
until maybe towards the end when I started to get into like a deeper, almost semi-sleep, but it took a long time to get there.
Yeah, thank you for that as well. So one of the things that people will say is, I can't meditate, it makes me anxious. Really what it is that we are slowing down enough to notice the level of anxiety in our body. And so it was there, but the slowing down to notice it, all of a sudden we're like, oh, my nervous system's upside down. I'm so accustomed to running that way that I'm missing that it's happening. So that's such great feedback. And on the timing standpoint, Jeff, I think that there's research around, if you've looked at stress-based mindfulness reduction, or if you've looked at like transcendental meditation, which are kind of 2 big schools of meditation, there's a tipping point for people somewhere at the 18-minute mark, which sounds like forever. I know we literally just sat for like 8 minutes. But there's a tipping point at 18 minutes in which we really get a big biological shift that can happen in the system. So it's worth playing with that. And then the comment in the chat, hearing my email go off kept getting me out of the groove, but concentrating on my breath helped me pull it back. Yeah, for sure. So this is a little bit around what's the container we create for ourselves. So making sure that like we've got all the pings and dings turned off when we take our seat is useful. And also life is pinging and dinging at us all the time. And so with time, over time, like we would practice anything else, right? If we want to run a marathon, we start our training and incremental steps to work towards. The same thing with meditation. Over time, you find that you're less likely to kind of like react to those kinds of things that are happening around you. So that's great feedback. Anyone else have anything that you wanted to share from an observation standpoint?
I wouldn't have been able to do that standing up.
Yeah.
No, I felt myself getting oozy at some point, like I was going to fall out of the chair. And then I felt it was weird. It was the opposite of breathing too heavy. Like when you overexert, I was able to hear like my heartbeat in different places in my body. It was a little freaky. I got to admit.
Yeah, for sure. And that's great, just refined self-awareness. And that kind of woozy feeling starts to happen for people in a couple situations. First of all, sometimes we realize, oh, I'm just underslept. I'm super tired and I'm pushing through. And what I really need is a nap, not meditation. But the other thing that can happen is when you start to tip up over that place that I was just talking about, where we get this real shift in the nervous system, that will also then open up into a different kind of level of consciousness. So there's like 7 levels of consciousness, which is a whole conversation for some other lifetime. But when you do that, your connection to your physical structure goes down. And so people will start to feel like they're kind of like rolling out of their chair a little bit.
It's funny that you bring up the nap concept, because I find that around this time sometimes, especially if I'm looking at the computer and reading and everything, that I'm looking at words and my mind isn't really comprehending.
Yes.
And I have a chair in my living room like I could sit in, and I can't lay down and do it, but I could sit in it and close my eyes for 15 minutes. And when I wake up, it's like I slept a whole night.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there's a great argument for a midday nap. And there's also, you can use meditation as a way. There's something called meditative sleep, where it's still a state of awakeness, but it's still deep rest, restorative in the system. So that's a tool that you can use as well if you can't actually conk out. So.
Laura, do you have a favorite app that you like to recommend for people for meditation?
There's a whole bunch. And I think, the one you hear people talk about a lot is Headspace. So some of you might use Headspace. I use Insight Timer, which I like a lot because it has guided meditations, but it also has an actual timer that you can set that will chime every couple minutes if you want it to. You can set some background. There's another one called Synctuition, which is a meditation app that is designed to actually work with the hemispheres of the brain to drive your intuitive muscles. So it really depends on what you're looking for. I like as well Brain.fm. Brain.fm you all might like from a productivity standpoint, because it's another neural hack that you can say, I need to be able to do deep focus work right now, or I need to be super creative, or I'm going to meditate. And you pick the track that's associated with that, and it mirrors the optimal state that the brain should be in for that particular function, and the brain entrains to it. So it's just like when you go into nature, you entrain, you literally, your body shifts and you entrain to the vibration of the earth, which is why we instantly are like, life is great when we're in the woods. That particular tool works with the brain in the same way. So I like all of those. I do not personally use Headspace, so I can't speak to that one, but I do really like the others.
Do you find in your experience, is there a certain time of day for meditation for people that delivers the best results, or is it completely specific to each individual?
Yeah, so most research would say first thing in the morning, when you're in that state between sleep and wake, is when you're the most receptive. However, that is not my preferred time to meditate, because I'm a jump out of bed, go get it done person. So that doesn't work for me. I tend to use it in times when I either feel, to Harvey's point, kind of tanked out by the day, or when I can feel, and we'll talk about this, I can feel my own stress response, and I become very tuned in to what that is. And I want the early subtle signs, so I don't need the 2x4 over my head. And so I'll use it in those moments as well. And in my experience is only mine, but it's easy to feel like, well, I don't have time. Like my calendar looks like someone threw up on it, but we all can make the time if we need to, right? So it's just, are we willing to prioritize the practice so that the rest of our day is better? And in my experience, when we do that, we actually buy back a lot of time, because we drop out a lot of wasted time of chasing things we shouldn't be chasing, or thinking about things that are a distraction or whatever it might be.
What is that optimum time you find? Is it 15 to 30
I
minutes?
would say a little bit more often is better than a lot infrequently. So the golden standard is 20 minutes. Like if you were to do TM or mindfulness-based stress reduction, they're all going to say it's a 20-minute tip point. I would tell you that if you can get 5 minutes, get 5 minutes. But what you will notice is it will take you time, at least for me, it takes me, the first 5 minutes I spend just convincing myself to stay in my chair. And then once I'm past that, I'm good. So I think, just being tuned in that you're actually wanting to get up over a threshold. So, whatever amount you can get for it. So a couple of things that I wanted to share, and I want to be super mindful. So I'll be clear that we are done at 2:45 as committed. So if we need to pick it up at the next time we're together, we will do that. But mindfulness and meditation to me are really two different things. Mindfulness is a state of being. And I define mindfulness as being fully available to the moment as it is and as it is not, without judgment. So that means we just show up and we're here and we're paying attention and we're present, right? Like I'm not like checking my phone or doing whatever else I might be, or thinking about what I'm going to make for dinner, whatever it might be. And so the more time I can be fully present with you, like really deeply with you, or really deeply with what it is I'm doing, the more profound and meaningful of a result we're going to get, both in terms of our outcome, the quality of our outcome, and the richness of the experience. So mindfulness to me is that state of being. I think you can think about mindfulness as almost a container of your own potential. So it's a structure around which you access inward that lets you then express outward in a really organized, efficient way. And so I remind myself all the time, and anyone who will listen to me, that we are all our best when the being of who we are is informing the doing of what we choose. Mindfulness is that container that lets us work from that place of intelligence. Meditation is a technology or a tool. It's just a practice. It's just something that quite literally we do. And it lets us anchor ourselves so that we have an efficient way to get back to calm, which is really our native state, right? So no matter how high energy you are, your native state is one of serenity and calm and peace and gratitude. And so meditation is a tool that you can use to get more efficient at getting that. And over time, if you meditate a lot, and any of you that have this experience, you know that you can, and that's why the anchoring really works. So Pavlov's dog, you all know that theory, right? So the more things we anchor, like over time, you need less and less time to get there. So I used to need like forever to just calm down. And now in, a couple minutes, I can land it. But it's only because I've been practicing it like with a lot of discipline. I don't have some sort of special gift nobody else has. So it's a tool that you can use, that you refine. So what I want to talk a little bit about today is stress. And I talked a bit about it before, but there's great research that shows that most of us, and you all are business leaders, and so I know this to be true just from my own experience, we are all high functioning stressaholics, right? We're really capable of making it look good, and we're really capable at running at a high threshold and maybe not even being aware that's having an impact on us. And so the way I think about stress is not as something that's negative, because it's quite literally not. It's a natural design of our body so that we can stay safe. It's a way in which we protect ourselves. And so our body has this capability to fight, flight, freeze, or collapse. And the collapse being the human addition to that, because animals aren't doing that in the wild. But that it is just a way in which we take care of ourselves. And we're not really intended to live in a state of stress all the time. And we're also not intended to perceive the things that we perceive as stressful as stress, because we're not being chased by a lion. I don't think any of us are being chased by a lion. I don't know. Daniel might be. You've got the like beach backdrop, so you're in the kind of quasi wild, the Zoom backdrop. So something could sneak up behind you, I suppose. But you know, we live our lives as if we are being chased by something, and we go home tanked out. You know, like we go home exhausted, we go home stressed, complaining, negative, out of our gratitude center, right? Our spouses are like, enough already. And so meditation is really, or stress is really a barometer. It's information for you. And stress in all of its phases, whether it's anxiety, fatigue, lack of concentration, distraction, shortness of breath, achiness in our bodies, right, is just our body's way of saying that our nervous system is imbalanced. And when our nervous system is imbalanced, we are suboptimal in terms of our contribution in the world. And so to me, it's stress is an invitation to come back into good space. So if we can think about it that way, it's like, instead of just circling the drain with it, we can start to come up and lift out of it. And so, and the one thing that I would just add to that is that there are some things that we're taught about dealing with stress that I really question their effectiveness. And the one is, you know, we tend to like talk through it a lot. And there's nothing wrong with talking through what's going on in our life, but our bodies are designed to actually digest and compost what's happening to it during the day. And so things like movement, things like breath work, things like meditation are much more efficient ways to help us. I mean, we've all been in that situation where we've like talked through something and we don't really feel better at the end of it. We just elongated our experience with it and probably invited someone else into our Oscar the Grouch trash can. So I think that looking at what tools can be useful for you and trying some things on can be really helpful. But the first step is to know what is the trigger for you. How does it show up in your experience? How does stress show up in your experience? So one of the things that I want to invite you to do as your homework is, if you have a piece of paper in front of you, just make an easy grid, a 4-way grid. And in the upper left-hand quadrant, right body, upper right-hand quadrant, emotion, lower left-hand quadrant, energy, lower right-hand quadrant, behavior. And most of our stress responses are going to show up in our body, our emotions, our energy, or our behavior, right? I feel tight in my shoulders. I fell apart emotionally. I feel totally drained energetically. I snapped at my kids behaviorally, right? So you can start to see how like there are different kinds of ways in which stress is manifesting itself. It's like literally blowing a horn in our ear saying, hello, pay attention. There's work here we can do together. And so I'd encourage you, we won't be together for 2 weeks. So when we're together next, it'll be 2 weeks from now, which will be the 26th. So it's plenty of time for you to do some tracking. And I'd encourage you to use this grid, and on this grid, like carry it around with you for a while, old school paper, carry it around and write it down. Like, I feel stress in tightness of chest, shortness of breath, right? Irritation with stupid questions, whatever it is that comes up for you. And start to record, start to become aware, self-aware, because the self-awareness work is so core to us being mindful in our everyday lives. So, and then the other thing I'm going to have you do, and then I'm going to take a few minutes just to see if anyone has questions. The other thing I'd love for you to do is to commit to doing at least 10 minutes of meditation every day for 2 weeks. We'll give you like a day off, so no one feels like a failure with it. So, you know, between now and when we're together next, maybe 11 or 12 times, meditate for 10 minutes and do exactly what we did earlier. You can use one of the apps that I mentioned, or you could use the 4-4-5 breath. That particular 4-4-5 breath gets taught in lots of different ways. It gets taught as 6-7-8. It doesn't matter. It's getting to a count that you can sustain and having a slightly longer exhale than the inhale, which is very decompressing to the nervous system. So just having that time. And when you do your meditation, before you start, you can use those questions that I gave you. Or you can just say, ask yourself your own questions, and I'll throw these in your, hold on just a second. Let me throw them in your chats. You have them. And a super easy way for you to do some, there we go, tracking of your own. And, building a meditation practice is like building any other kind of habit. So there's consistency, and there is intentionality, and there is discipline. So rumble a little bit with the discipline that it's going to take if you don't have a meditation practice, because you're not going to want to do it. I promise you, your body's going to be like, that sounds great, but I've got lots to do. And so just rumble with that a bit. Be willing to do the hard work around it. So that's where all of you who have tremendous self-discipline, or you wouldn't be where you are doing what you're doing, use your self-discipline to support you in doing this work as practice. And I really want you to pay attention to how it impacts your stress. So do your grid, and then play with those with that particular meditation and track before and after. Does that sound reasonable? Or reasonable to ask?
Fair enough.
Okay, cool. The app that I use is Insight Timer. I also use brain.fm, which is the one that I told you that entrains to the kind of optimal neurological place. And then the other one was Sync Tuition, which is the one that's designed to help with your intuitive muscle. I think that last one costs money, but I think the others are free. So.
And Lane and I will circulate. The steps and the homework and everything.
Awesome.
Just quick question, Laura.
Yes.
So what do you recommend, if you're going throughout your day and you don't have that 20 minutes or 10 minutes, but something really sets you off?
Create it. Yeah, create it. I mean, we could talk about breath work is extremely powerful for moving energy through the body. Anything that helps to move energy through the body is going to be valuable as a way to kind of digest what's happening. I mean, go for a 5-minute walk, right? But create some time versus just missing that and going right into the next thing, because then you take all your garbage right into the next thing, and we just deplete out by the end of the day. So I would create some amount of time to do something that feels helpful and doesn't involve staring at a screen, like looking for those things that are your distraction practices. So drinking, shopping, eating, too much screen time. There's nothing inherently wrong with any of those things, but they are distraction practices. So just watching out for those things, because those are kind of habitual. And then the question around what about music during meditation? I super love it. I recommend no lyrics, because you'll start to listen to the lyrics. In fact, that's why most chanting is not done in like it's done in syllables versus words that you might recognize. But for me, music is really helpful to move energy, but some people don't care for it. So I play with it both ways.
I suggest Narada.
Narada. Nice.
Go look them up.
Yeah.
It'll calm me down.
Nice. Yeah. And one more thing I'll say, and I know we're at 2:45. There's a lot of mythology around, like, well, I've got to be on this like special cushion and sitting crisscross applesauce and, spine erect and all my chakras vertically structured. And take your seat in your chair, be comfortable, keep a tall spine so that you do have length so you can breathe expansively. Your lungs go up into your armpits, so really play with the fullness of your breath, but don't get too caught up in any of those things. You can do it in your car, not driving, but like you could go sit in your car and just use that as a quiet space. So I think it's better to get yourself into an environment where you're not going to get a bunch of interruptions, but you don't have to worry about any of those things.
It was great.
Amazing.
Great.
Can't believe how fast that went. So upset.
And for anyone, I'm going to put my email address in the chat. And if something comes up and you have a specific question, don't hesitate to just email me directly. And I'm happy to respond to it.
Laura, do you mind just giving a little brief background, just because we all have great networks on here, and maybe, you know, someone's going to be speaking to someone and we'd love to have them suggest you, refer you?
Oh, for sure, for sure. So yeah, thank you for that, Alan. I appreciate it. I do a couple things. My primary work is with a firm that I co-founded with two amazing women called 10X Leadership Lab. And we work with companies that are looking to integrate into their leadership team and strategy principles of conscious business. So balancing people, profit, and purpose. So that's really the work we do. We do a lot of strategy work with companies, and then a lot of work to help them integrate into their cultures, build thriving cultures, and build thriving leadership teams. And then I also have a little side hustle called Pure Wellness, and that's an online yoga and meditation platform. So that's another source for meditations, by the way. There's probably, I don't know, 100 plus of them out there that are all guided that I've done. And so that website is just Pure Wellness on demand if you're curious, and boatloads of yoga, and most of which I've instructed, ranging from gentle to power to whatever you want.
Amazing. Thank you.
I feel nice and relaxed.
Yeah, I was going to say, look what you did to this crowd. Everyone's like, oh.
No one's ever been this quiet, ever.
Never.
We're not a
Even
quiet
Harvey.
bunch.
Harvey. I mean, you quieted Harvey.
That's amazing.
This was great.
I have not said one single word. I want you to all observe. Not one single word.
You've taken it all in, Amir. I know.
Yeah,
I was quiet too.
nice. Yeah. Well, if I can support you in the next couple of weeks, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to do so. So any questions you have, or if you get stuck, let me know.
Yeah, and anyone, you know, you don't have to wait till the next session. If you see, you know, merit in this and you feel a need, please. Again, Lane and I will share all of Laura's information, her websites, her services, and, you know, please feel free to reach out to Laura because she is one of our community members.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
And Andrea, thank you so much for finding Laura and really, you know, putting this all together. I don't know what we'd do without you. So thank you.
My pleasure. Happy to bring Laura's energy to the world.
Yeah, it's
I
amazing.
noted that Andrea and I go way back. So we've been friends for a while. It's really such an honor to do anything in collaboration with you.
As far back as Lane?
No,
No.
No, that's real far back.
back I hear, yeah.
No, this was great use of time. Feel like I'd be able to get time back because of this now.
By the way, just to correct you quickly, I would think a lion would attack Scott with his backdrop. Just saying.
Oh, right. Yes, you're right. Oh, we'd definitely attack Scott.
I was trying to relax and try to, you know, camping, meditation. It felt like it went together.
I think those are prayer flags behind you. I don't think a lion's coming into your energetic field because you've got the Tibetan prayer flags up.
I have a lot of issues to work on.
If I put a thank you in my backdrop, does that exclude me from having to write thank you so much in the chat? Or you could say, Amir, you can never say thank you too many times. So I'm going to put it in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Amir. I appreciate all of the thank yous.
Amazing.
Mhm.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Got a lot to look forward to this week and next and the following, and looking forward to catching most of you tomorrow and today. Looking real forward to that.
Very good. Well, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.